My name is Pat Macha. I'm a retired high school history teacher. For the past 50 years, it has been my avocation to study and research and visit crash sites throughout the state of California. And this particular accident, which occurred on April 18, 1952, was a non-scheduled airline, one of several that were operating in the U.S. at that time, flying from New York City into LAX. And unfortunately, as that aircraft approached the Los Angeles area, they ran into bad weather in the form of stratus fog and clouds on the coastal side of the Whittier Hill, Chino Hill complex. The pilot was trying to make an instrument landing, an ILS landing at LA, and he was supposed to maintain 3,000 feet and then come down from that altitude when directed. And apparently he descended much earlier and began flying in circles trying to figure out where he was or to get under the low clouds. And tragically at that point, he collided with the Whittier Hills and killed everyone on board. So 29 people lost their lives in that flight. And pilot error is what we get from reading the Civil Aeronautics Board findings on it. Of course, in those days, we didn't have the nav aids we do now. We didn't have GPS. We didn't have the powerful radars that we do now. And the aircraft itself, a World War II surplus C-46 transport plane, similar to this one, did not have radar on board. And this airplane could carry up to 50 people. And these non-skeds were flying all over the U.S. And if you took a non-scheduled airliner, you could save a lot of money. And that's why people selected them. But after a string of accidents, not just this one, with Robin Airlines in the Whittier Hills, most of these non-skeds were put out of business permanently. Well, Sewell Griggers was the captain in charge of the LA County Sheriff's Aero Detail, or Aero Squadron as they called it. He was an amazing individual, devoted his entire professional life to law enforcement from the air, and pioneered the early surveillance flights, also pioneered helicopter flight in Los Angeles County, was the first man to land a helicopter on top of 10,064-foot high Mount Baldy, Mount San Antonio, in the San Gabriel mountain range. He and his brother Lyndall were highly respected members of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. It is from him and knowing him that I was able to locate many of the sites, crash sites, that he had been to. And of course that includes the one here in Whittier Hills that we're talking about today. And a grim and grisly scene. The aircraft burned. There were no survivors. Unlike the other non-sked that crashed west of Burbank, California in the mountains, same airplane, a C-46. In that accident, the pilot saw the mountain in the last moment and pulled up. So there were survivors in the tail of that airplane. The crash site today is in a chaparral environment. It's mostly overgrown, but about 5% of that C-46F is still up there. And when people visit the site, we always ask them to be very respectful, to not remove anything and leave everything as you found it. Take pictures only. And in that particular area too today, there's poison oak you have to be aware of, and also the occasional rattlesnake.
Captain Sewell Griggers, chief of the Sheriff's Aero Squadron, was first on the scene. He flew over the wreckage of the downed aircraft and confirmed the tail assembly number N8404C as the missing plane. Once on the ground, Griggers was quoted as saying,
"Everyone on board died on impact or in the inferno that followed."
By the time word got out to the sleeping valley below, recovery teams of both police and firemen began to scale the steep, slippery hillsides up to the impact area. Jeeps full of men carried cutting torches and cranes to the top of the hill. What awaited them brought back memories of World War II for some.